Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition of Lost in the Stacks. I know your old pal, the eccentric bookman's been gone for a while, but there's been a lot of things going on in the lost part of the library. Therefore, tonight, I'd like to talk about one of my personal favorite books from when I was a young boy, by Mr. R.L. Stine. The book is entitled Goosebumps, The Haunted Car. I grew up reading the classic Goosebumps, with being the little bookworm I was, and absolutely positively loved these books, and read this one a bit later. Like I said before, I'm sorry that I've been gone for a while and didn't mean to get back to doing more videos sooner, but there's been a lot going on in the stacks. Needless to say, I will try to have these discussions with you in the stacks as much as I can. However, however circumstances permit me to. But with that being said, let's get back to our discussion at hand tonight. Before I do love discussing books with you of all genres and all types. There's no judgment here in the stacks. I love many types of books from all genres. This Goosebumps book, The Haunted Car, is a very good one in my opinion, as it starts out with a young boy named Mitchell who loves automobiles and cars, especially classic and vintage cars. When Mitchell and his family move into a new house when his father gets a new job, Mitchell starts complaining about how the family car needs to be replaced. After a near accident, when the brakes fail, he finally convinces his father to start looking into buying a used car. Mitchell is the first to discover a ad in the paper for a used vintage automobile and convinces his father to go look at it. The hook line of the ad is "Name your own price." Mitchell's father is convinced that they will not be able to afford this car and that they're only going out to look. When they go out to meet the owner of the car, whose name is Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas seems a bit weird, you know, and I know a thing or two about weird or eccentric, you know. Getting back to the point, he shows Mitchell and his father a beautiful vintage sports sedan, I think it is, if I remember right, in perfect condition. And Mitchell's father is kind of interested, and even more so after Mr. Douglas convinces them to take a ride in it. But Mr. Douglas's behavior, as I mentioned before, is a bit off to say the least, acting like he really wants to get rid of the car, even and is almost prepared just to give it to them. But Mitchell and his father ignore all of this, as the car is such a nice vintage luxury vehicle. During the test drive, Mitchell's father even mentions to him that he knows cars better than he does, and there's no way that they would be able to afford a car like that. But Mr. Douglas makes Mitchell and his father an offer they absolutely cannot refuse, selling them the car at a mere $5,000. Mitchell's father is shocked, thinking that he's only talking about a down payment, but he tells him that if he gives him five grand, that he'll sell him the car on the spot with one condition. And when Mitchell's father inquires to the condition, he tells him he has to take the car away on the spot that very day, and not catching on to anything going on. Mr. Mitchell's father asks him, is there anything wrong with the car, and he swears up and Mr. Douglas swears up and down that nothing's wrong with the car. So they buy it and take it home. Soon after, Mitchell's friends come over, Adam and Steve, and they go out to set in the car, as Mitchell's been bragging about it at school all week, and they even take Mitchell's little brother along, Todd, who wants to tag along with his brother. They're all sitting in the car when the doors seem to lock on their own, and the inside of the car gets very, very, very cold, freezing. And Mitchell, up until this point, has experienced a few other weird things with the car, but this is the first major sign. They almost meet their doom, but is saved by a girl who just moved into the neighborhood by the name of Marissa, who opens the car and lets them out. And the strange things start coming up about Marissa, and it leads Todd and his brother Mitchell to believe that she's the ghost haunting the car. I don't want to spoil anything for you readers out there if you're thinking about picking up this title. The only thing I will say is that it's not Marissa directly, but is very closely interwoven with her, the plot behind the car. And more Mitchell is convinced and getting scared to death of the car, to the point where he won't go near it, but a strange force keeps pulling him to it. And he can't resist. A little later on, the car reveals that it wants to end Mitchell's life, to bring him over to the other side, so it won't have to be lonely anymore, and that it's evil. But Mitchell is saved in the end when the car inadvertently saves his life, as his father, being a do-it-yourself handyman, tries to fix a lamp in their home, but ends up burning down the home. And one night when Mitchell's parents is gone, visiting a relative with Todd, but he stays home as he is grounded after his parents accused him of stealing the car at one point, when the car actually took him. And Mitchell is inadvertently saved by the car, as the car took him for a spin, intending to crash, but ultimately ends up taking him home, stating to him that it doesn't matter if he dies at home or away from home, it'll still be the same result, but realizes inadvertently that it saved his life, as he would have died in the house fire anyway. Inadvertently doing good and being evil, like, puts the evil spirit in the car to rest, sending it off to the other side, and the plot is revealed. And you know, every Goosebumps book has to have a twist at the end. So for anybody that doesn't want to hear this, please click off now. Okay, if you're still here, you know, you've been warned. The twist to this book is that the whole time Mitchell's father's been driving the car around and using it, and after the spirit crosses over that was haunting the car, he calls a mechanic as the car suddenly stops running, and the mechanic comes out, and Mitchell's parents still doesn't believe that the car was haunted. They still believe he took it, and they want him to tell his brother that he was just making it up, as Todd believes in that kind of stuff, and they don't want him to be scared. But when the mechanic gets there, he asks his father if that was some kind of joke when he looked under the hood, and when the mechanic looked under the hood, he realized that the car might run if it had a battery. And Mitchell's father and mother start believing him somewhat, even if they don't believe him altogether, as they've been driving the car for weeks seemingly without a battery. This is another good title by R.L. Stine, and even though it wasn't one I read growing up, it was still one of my favorite ones that I read later on in life. I love the Goosebumps books, to the Goosebumps series, to the Goosebumps movie. I've read it ever since I was a kid, and I hope that many more generations can enjoy it. Well, I guess that's all for tonight, as we're nearing the end of our visit. I thought I would make this video a little longer, as it's been a long time. As I said, I hope we can have many more discussions like this and here in the stacks. And I will try. And then I will try to return soon. But until then, like your old friend, the eccentric bookman always tells you, friends, remember, remember, it's only a story. So as long as you remember that, you'll never be in any real danger when you're lost in the stacks.